That's here, but press is always here.
Yeah, that's always on.
Good evening.
It is 5:30 and we're going to get started. I detect the quorum, so we're going to go ahead. Today is Tuesday, June the 5th, and of course this is the Rules, Confirmation, and Public Elections Committee. And thank you for coming. We're going to start with elections and confirmations, the Board of Equalization. Then we'll go to Fire and Building Codes Appeal Board, after which the Historic Zoning Commission. Following that is the Public Library Board. And last but certainly not least is the Board of Parks and Recreation. At this time, we have several reappointments, and we have one newly appointed. And let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We don't have any extra chairs. Do we have any extra chairs? If you could just, do we have any of our Board of Equalization people on the front row? Do we have this? How many? If we could have you all to take the front row, and I would be more than appreciative if anybody would be willing to exchange seats or just have you all on the front row. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We'll have you all to move out.
Sorry. Musical chairs.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh, that's beautiful. All 7 chairs. All 7. If I could get someone to take those chairs and just move them aside, so.
Do it.
Thank you.
At your service.
Thank you. Thank you, Council Lady Locke. Oh, that looks good.
That's good.
No, that's perfect.
I moved it okay.
Yeah. At this time, I have a few questions I would like for each one of you to answer. And you don't even have to do it in unison, but if everybody would answer it. First of all, are you residents of Davidson County? If you are, please raise your hand. Okay, that's okay. Are you a voter here, a registered voter here in Davidson County? If you raise your hand, that's everybody. Now, do you serve on any other boards or commissions in Davidson County? If you serve on any other boards and commissions in Davidson County, if you serve on any other boards or commissions in Davidson County, raise your hand. Good. I was hoping no one else. Y'all did really good. And at this time, we have people entering the room. Okay. We're going to get settled. Did I leave something out?
No, I was going to ask a question.
Okay, well, we're going to wait till everybody gets settled, and then we're going to recognize you. Okay, now that everyone is settled in, we're going to open it up for the committee to ask questions. Could I just hear one thing about each one of them before we ask questions? Okay. And we're going to start with the lovely lady here on the end. If you would just tell us your name and then tell us just a little bit about yourself after you tell us your name, and then we'll just move right down the row. And your name is?
Jacqueline Kelly.
Okay, Jacqueline Kelly. Tell us just a few things about yourself.
I own Kelly Properties and have owned Kelly's Properties for 35 years in Nashville. I'm a commercial broker.
Thank you. Next.
Derek Starks, commercial broker and father of 2-year-old twin girls.
Awesome.
All right.
Oh.
I'm Bob Notestein. It probably shows up on the list as Robert. I'm an attorney here in town. Been involved pretty heavily in the real estate business and real estate practice for over 30 years. And been on this board for a couple terms.
Okay, a couple of turns. Okay, next.
I'm Glenda Chambers. I'm retired. I was the executive director of the National Association of State Retirement Administrators.
Okay, thank you. And next?
Jean Harrison, been a construction and administrative law lawyer for 20-something years. Don't know how long now. And I've been on the board for I don't know how long now.
Okay, thank you. Next.
Kamal Saba. I'm a real estate agent by profession. I've been in the business for about 4.5 years. I work under the Village Real Estate Brokerage, and I'm here.
Very good. Next.
I'm Lynn Brandmeier. Served last year. I'm an accountant, semi-retired, and work with figures.
Okay. Now let me make sure I have everybody's name. It's Lynn Brandmeier, Glenda Chambers, Jean Harrison, Jacqueline Kelly, not Robert, but Bob.
Bob.
Okay. Bob Nostein.
Correct. Nostein, yep.
Okay. And Kamal Saba. Okay. And Derek Starks.
Yes.
Okay, with the twin girls, 2 years old. Okay, at this time, if you would, you.
Yeah.
Okay, we're gonna open it up.
So thank you all for being here, and thank you for identifying yourself. So obviously, you all have become much more important in the scheme of things and so I think what I'd like to say is, first of all, I mean, we very much appreciate what you all do. This is not an easy job. There's a lot of pressure involved and a lot of things that happen with it. It just so happens, though, that with this, there's a lot more attention is being paid to this. And Bob, are you the chairman of this?
Derek's the chair.
Derek, you're the chair. Okay. I guess what I would say is, maybe I could just ask this. In terms of, we have lots of boards and commissions that come through. In terms of the process, particularly in terms of what you all have to look at and evaluate, I think I, for one, have never been to one of your meetings. So I'd love for somebody at some point, and it may not be tonight, but somebody to kind of go through the process and explain how these things are presented to you, how many of these cases you get, what kind of information you get, who's arguing both sides, all that. And some of the committee members may have been, but I don't have a good sense of how all this stuff works. Do you all, before you actually, have sat on this board, do you all get a series of training sessions to kind of know what to expect and what's going on, or you just kind of, I hate to say this, or you kind of just put up there and then off you go? And I know, Mr. Saba, this is a brand new thing, so if you want to answer, that's fine. But and you can speak for the group, you may be able to do it. But Ms. Brandmeier, I know particularly you're pretty new at this, and again, this is not easy. And again, a lot of attention being focused on it, but it's not an easy job. And we have all these people come through, and we're a pretty nice committee. We always ask a lot of fun questions, but a lot of serious questions too.
Yeah, serious.
And we always appreciate people willing to serve, but this one's got a little bit more attention. So I'm interested about the education process. Do you all get some training before you go in?
And what is it?
And what is it?
Well, there's a required 4 hours this year, right?
Yeah, I think
We got a 4-hour seminar coming up on the 12th that is from 9 to 1 at the Howard School, and I don't know who is doing it, but it's going to talk about the current laws and changes and that kind of thing.
But you said this year, that, I hate to nitpick, but I know you're an attorney. I know we've got other attorneys in here. Does that imply that, how often do you do that training? How often do you have that? Is that every year, or just after a reappraisal, or just because she was new, so she had it?
I didn't mean to interrupt you. It's pretty much every year. Now, I will say that it has been more voluntary, I think, in the past. This year, we understand it's a requirement from the state. It's requiring it. I was going to just add one thing. We heard, as a group, several thousand cases last year, wasn't it? Over 2,500, 3,000, 4,000. I'll tell you, by the time we were done, that committee knew what real estate values were in Davidson County.
Right.
We saw everything. I mean, we saw so many properties. It became almost like an instinct. You could hear somebody started talking a few minutes, and we all looked around and said, that's the value. It just was that. It was a very, very exciting and a very, very tough experience. It was grueling. We had one person didn't want to come back because, frankly, she was burnt out. couldn't do it. So it was an atypical year because of the reappraisal. But the people who have done it, and Jean's done it for 10 years probably. I mean,
12, I think.
Yeah, but the people who have done it They know what to look for. They know when people are shooting the smoke and when it's real. It's a little adversarial, and what I also wanted to mention is the property assessor staff doesn't tell us. They don't guide us. They don't tell us what to do. They do provide the county's position, the county's appraisal up front. We know what they base their calculations on. And but they realize we're fairly much an independent committee, and we have to make the ultimate decision. So it's a really tough job.
I have a question. Thank you.
Sorry, I should let Derek speak.
And we will.
Lawyers never shut up. Sorry.
You will have your opportunity.
All right.
You'll have your opportunity. But for Mr. Saba, with you being a new candidate, what do you understand the process will be coming in? Is it your understanding that you will be trained? Just what's your understanding?
Yeah, I think I thought about that as well. I think being in the real estate business, I'm involved a lot with properties and also talking to the property assessor quite a bit with their taxes and all that. I do know that there's the annual training that's happening next week, so I'm eager to learn as much as I can to be able to serve the committee the Board of Equalization as best as I can. But being in the business in real estate, I think we sometimes have a small or slight edge in terms of understanding property values and how to assess them correctly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
In terms of training, I think Tuesday next week. So yeah.
Okay.
I think we have follow-ups over here.
Okay. Council lady?
So what I'm hearing from y'all is that you've had this 4-hour training. It's mandated by the state now. And it sounds like you get a lot of on-the-job training and the personal training, the background of your personal jobs. Do you feel that is enough? Do you feel, I understand you've got a lot this year and that I could understand y'all being burnt out and not wanting to come back. Is there feedback or discussion amongst y'all and whoever else is on the board about, maybe we're hearing a certain type, we need some more training in one area? Then is there any other discussion on that give take? Do you feel like your board is diverse enough where maybe one of you understands more of one type of property than the other? I don't think I'm doing a good job of explaining what I'm trying to ask, but some of y'all are nodding your heads. Do you feel like your training is adequate or that you need different areas? Or are you hearing certain types of cases that maybe you are not accustomed to?
I can speak to this.
Does that make sense?
No, it does. I was Metro Legal's property tax lawyer, and I represented the board 20-something years ago, so I had a head start, and I litigated the property tax schedules to the Sixth Circuit. So, I have a pretty serious depth of understanding of how this stuff works. Everybody on this board has individual gifts. I do a ton of construction law, a lot of zoning, a lot of administrative work, government admin law. I'm really good for them when it comes to personal property tax issues. I'm really good on complicated things like IDBs and ground leases and that sort of thing. The realtors here that we've had on the board, Mara was, she's not here. You'll see her on the 19th. They have better information than I would about individual market trends in areas of the neighborhood. There are people who have significant strengths. We have a commercial broker. They know there's a wealth of personal expertise on this board. When you walk into the board, you have no idea what you're going to get. I think I said yes to, I think it was Carl Dean. And I walked in, did 2 years, and then the market crashed, so I sat through the reappraisals of 2009. Now I've sat through the ones in 2016, so I've had both extremes. And nothing on the planet could prepare anybody on the board for what we went through this last year. We had everyday hearings starting at 9 o'clock and ending at 4 from June to October. And just getting the sheer volume through. You have tax reps that come in from around the state that have questionable appraisals a lot of the time. And, they'll try to feed you that we're on a fee lease, not a fee appraisal. The staff has been excellent about giving us the appraisal manual so that we have standards that we can look to. So I think we're pretty much, everybody's expertise is in a different area, so we have a pretty good way of handling questions when they come up, and if we need guidance, we ask.
Okay. Council lady?
So if you would go back last year's appraisal process, and you told me you have like tons of thousands of cases. So how do you all work? Do you everybody hear the same case, or do each of you assign a particular case?
Everybody hears the same case.
Okay. And so before you go in, could you tell me about what kind of training you went through for the last year's appraisal review process? I understand 4 hours training is coming for this year, but what was last year was like?
Last year, Glenda and I were new last year, and we both attended, I think it was 4 hours, out at the Ellington Agricultural Center. It was more general training that concerned the whole state, so we didn't get very much that was local. But I know, and I think Glenda feels the same way, we fed from the others on the board. They were so good to help us and lead us and guide us and tell us what was going on. Jean and Bob and Mara, who isn't here today, were very good. Derek was good. Everybody was. And it was hard work. It was long hours. Some days we were there, like we were saying, from 9 o'clock in the morning until 4:30 in the afternoon. But I don't know about everyone else. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed finding out about the different areas of town and what the property values were. And we listened to everyone as a group. And then we would have some discussion. And they didn't always like what we were saying, but we always came to an agreement.
I'd also like to say that the staff of the assessor's office was excellent. We didn't go in with just a piece of paper that this lot was worth $1,000. They had comparables of other, even though we didn't assess on comparables, but the staff really knows all the property. They have done, in my opinion, a really excellent job of knowing the property and knowing the county, and then they provided it to us. We had visuals. They put it up on the screen with all of the previous assessments, any new changes, any improvements to the property that have been made that needed to be taken into account. If there was a flood zone, how that affected the property. We were given a lot of information on each piece of property by the staff, and then the person who came before the board also had information. Often they would have an appraisal by an independent appraisal company, or they would have very specific information on what was going on with that property in the case of, say, some type of mall or shopping center. We would get information on how many of the stores were closed, how many were starting to close,
How long the leases
were, you know, what the rent rolls were, whether it was an apartment building or retail. We knew how long that lease was going to be there, what the history of the lease was, and what they were getting, what type of concessions they were having to give to get tenants in the different properties. So, I mean, we had a lot of information, but it's a very quick process. And I don't know how you could change that to give us more time.
The information is so good that we could ask the staff, say, we want to know, this is a tire store, we want to know how many tire stores have sold in Antioch in the last 3 years. And they not only know that instantaneously, but they showed on the screen a picture of it, what it sold for, when it sold for, the square footage of the lot, the square footage of the, I mean, everything we need is just wham, it's right in front of you. It's amazing.
Councilman Mendez,
Showed us what was in the area, what was next door.
you're recognized.
Thank you. First of all, thanks for your service. I know it was a lot of work. My personal theory is that the assessor's office did a good job with the appraisal and that the board did a good job. And when I say good, I think great job given the volume. But you guys have read the paper, you know what people are saying. And to me, the thing that I think we need to ask about, and I know some of the information's out there already, but I think the thing that we need to ask about is historically, is what happened really materially different than what's happened in the past. Like a couple of things that are out there in emails that we're getting literally today is the businesses cashed in on the reappraisal process or the appeal process, and businesses got a big break and individuals didn't. Wearing my lawyer hat, I think, well, on a commercial piece of property, there's the 15 factors that you mentioned, whereas in a house, you got comps. And so it's more challenging, and there's more things to look at, and so therefore probably more commercial properties need to be tweaked than houses, and that's probably the explanation. I'm wondering whether you all have or have got access to historically whether the percent of appeals that were successful is any different than it was in previous reappraisals, or whether the breakdown of successful commercial versus residential is any different. Because I think one thing that would help us in dealing with constituent questions is being able to say conclusively, it's a little bit different because the real estate market was changing so radically during those 4 years in Nashville, but fundamentally the trends are the same historically. And my suspicion is that that's true, but it would be good if somehow we could demonstrate that to constituents.
Well, I can tell you this, because I've sat there on the board longer than anybody else. There was nothing about this year that was inherently different in the way we handled anything. The difference between commercial and residential appeals could not be starker. In a commercial sense, we're looking at very commonly income approach. You're looking at, cost almost never happens, but depending upon the type of property, there's a vast number of ways you look at properties. One of the challenges that we had, for instance, was let's just say the 8th Avenue corridor. You have a marine boat shop on 8th Avenue. It's been there for 1,000,000 years. You have an assemblage of parcels that somebody has put together a block away that drives the dirt value in that area to over $350 a foot. So can you say that the value of the dirt underneath that boat shop down the road is $350 a foot? When it's been, you're talking, I don't have the answer for that. So these are the questions that were tossed to us.
I get that, but the thing that I think we're struggling with in dealing with constituent questions is, I think it's a false narrative to say there's something different happening this year, but I think we're struggling with a way to show that to constituents, and that's just a question.
I imagine that would probably be a Vivian question and her staff, because they keep those numbers, and I do recall that they gave us some statistics. I think that in terms of residential stuff, we don't see that many residential appeals, and we haven't historically. People come in and they ask about the residential value of their property. Residential property is actually really easy to nail down, in a lot of respects, unless there's something super unusual about it. You're looking at comps, you've got 1,000,000 comps, there's been a lot of sales, you should be able to determine value pretty easily. I would say that the time spent in our hearings since the time I've been on this board, which I think goes back to 2007 or 8, all the way, it's not substantially different. This year wasn't last year. It's the same number of appeals, percentage-wise, I would think, residential versus commercial. It's just that the value swings are much higher right now on the commercial side than the residential. I don't know, I'll defer to these guys on it, but I didn't see anything in this year's or in last year's reappraisal process that was different structurally. It's just, the meteoric rise in the downtown core area, and then the outlying, 440 corridor was pretty amazing. Is that consistent with what you guys recall?
Yeah. The process was the same. I think the values, like Jean was saying, the commercial was just so high. So, but as a board, we don't sit and look collectively at all the parcels at once. They come to appeal, we look at one parcel, and that's where our focus is.
One of the problems is we don't, we make a decision, but they can appeal it. So we had a lot of no changes. Jean's the master of no changes. She was like, it's worth what the county's got, we're not reducing, no change. We'd say, okay, no change. But they can appeal up the state, we don't have any control over it anymore. So I don't know. I think there were a lot of appeals this year, which is undecided, which I don't know how that affects Metro's income.
It'd be great to have some of those numbers.
Yeah, at this time, I'd like to call on Councilman.
When they came to us, I mean, those appraisals had already been made.
Yeah.
This time, I'd like to recognize Councilman Jim Shulman. Beautiful answer.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm still going back to the basic process, and I didn't know you handled so many cases. That's amazing.
Wow.
Okay. All right. So if someone, if you're taking a piece of commercial property and you've got somebody that comes in to say, it was overvalued, does somebody on the other side, is somebody representing the assessor and is fighting with, it's like a real back and forth about?
Absolutely. The assessor's office has their own staff, and they're there to defend their position. The board, we hear what we hear, and then we make a decision. But the assessor's office is represented by staff, and there is an attorney there that kind of represents the board and answers questions as things come up. But the assessor's office is pretty ably represented, and vigorously so. And I would say the same is true of commercial enterprises. One difference between the residential and the commercial, of course, is representation by lawyers. Overwhelmingly, your commercial people have tax reps and lawyers that are coming in to represent them before the board, and they have very slick productions, and they've laid out their case. And a lot of times many times, like it's this year, you can see a lot of it where you have appeals that are going to feed through the system that are already pending before the state, so there'll be no change and consolidated, and they'll go up, and then whatever point of law comes down from the ALJ's office will determine what gets done in the future.
Okay, so I know there's the informal reviews that I think get handled by Vivian Wilhoit's office, right?
Yeah, before that ever gets to us.
Okay. Then it comes to you all, and then there's this whole other thing where they can appeal on up
That's
to
correct.
the State Board of Equalization.
Assessment appeals.
How do
and
they
the
appeal
state.
to the state before y'all have heard it?
They don't.
I think what she was saying is they
I'm
were
not getting that.
appealed in a previous year, and it's not yet finalized.
If the issue
So
is the same.
If the issue's the same.
It takes the
They have
state board
multiple
years.
years.
Yeah, sometimes it takes years for them to rule on something.
So, and I don't want to cut off Council Lady Johnson,
No,
but,
she didn't ask for permission to speak.
well, I saw her hand go up at one point. But
Oh, no, I'm sorry.
this is fairly complicated. And, I mean, again, we appreciate you all coming down. I'd almost like to defer defer the appointments, and then what I'd really like to do is, for our own benefit, is maybe have property assessor Wilhoit come in and kind of explain the process. I want to make sure that, first of all, that you all have what you need. I'm amazed that you're handling that many cases. And Mr. Sava, I mean, if I were you, I might not even come back. I mean, I don't know who talked you into doing this, but I would get out of here as quickly as possible. But we have we start our council meeting in 30 minutes. This is interesting. We got more stuff going on.
Yeah.
I'd almost rather just move to defer this either to a special meeting where we don't have to rush. Obviously, this is important to us. We got a lot of people who are going, okay, so asking us lots of questions. So we need to have a better idea. You all, I can't stress how important it is that what you all are doing and the amount of time. I don't even know, how do you do your regular jobs, or do you not?
You get yelled at a lot.
We're mostly self-employed.
Okay, well, I mean, is there some better process or whatever? Maybe we should learn that. But I don't think, what I would like to do is defer either to a special meeting or, we always have this problem. We have 1 hour to do this stuff,
Right.
and we don't
It's
have a chance
hard.
to figure it out.
Yeah.
But this one is extremely important to us. So maybe, Madam Chair, I'd almost like to defer to a special meeting where, and I hate to have everybody have to come back, but maybe, but, and Mr. Jameson is.
Can I ask a quick
Yes.
question? I'm unsure of the exact dates that apply in terms of when their positions expired, but there is the charter provision that says a position appointed by the mayor can persist 60 days after that expiration period. If the mayor doesn't appoint anybody for your confirmation in that 60 days, it then goes to the vice mayor. If the council doesn't act within the 60 days, they're deemed appointed. And I don't know exactly when these
April
positions.
1st.
April 1st.
So that would be.
We're at 60 already.
Well, who did that?
Okay, so explain exactly what that means. I mean,
I guess I'm like, can we change the term? Can we appoint them for an interim term?
All I know is that the charter section says that the mayor appoints positions for boards and commissions. They're brought here for confirmation.
Can we do an approval and still request a special meeting as part of the motion?
And would you be willing to come back?
Would you be willing to come back to a special meeting?
30-day term.
And you have an adjourned meeting next week, just throwing that out there.
so, Mr. Jameson, could we, in order to take care of this charter issue, could we approve them could we change the length of their service for a month and just go ahead and get them through so we don't run into a charter problem, but then have them come back?
I think the state legislation specifies the term durations.
But we do people for partial terms all the time.
Succeeding.
What would be the point of doing that?
So we have a charter problem. The point of doing it is that we have a charter problem. If we don't do it tonight, it's been 60 days.
But what would be the point of not reappointing them as of tonight? That's what I was trying to get to.
Because I think there are so many issues. This whole
They
issue.
have said that they would be willing to come
But
back.
are the issues going to impact us making a decision to reappoint them? That's the question I have.
I think we need, based upon all the stuff that's floating around regarding the appraisals, particularly right now with the budget issue going on, that I would stress that I think that if there are enough questions, we need to make sure we understand kind of what happened, what should happen. Are there more educational requirements? They're handling thousands of cases. How do we figure this thing out? And the idea was maybe we should just hold, but now I'm not sure if we can.
Yeah, I don't know. We have a board in place, and there is a process and procedure based upon the resumes I've read from each one of you. I'm satisfied with your credentials, your background, your experience, and you made a decision, on these properties, and they may not have come out where we want, and we end up in this shortfall with regard to the property tax collections. But those are the decisions you made, and as you stated, you made them from information you were given. So I think if we were not to reappoint them, I would have to see that there's some type of issue with the credentials and I think this is a wealth of knowledge, great diversity, good mix of, when I say diversity, backgrounds, from accounting to law to commercial brokerage, years of experience, young person. Are you look young? Commercial broker and a new commercial broker. It seemed like new and young. I'm just not really confident, why not advancing you forward, what would happen after that. I would love for you to come back, and so we have an idea of exactly, what is the process, what role, I understand some, but I think the overwhelming question in this room is the fact that he spoke about the budget shortfall. Is it because the decision you made was maybe not the best one, or is it the decision you made is the right decision, and that's just how it is? I don't know if that's what we're trying to get to, but I feel very confident that you rendered the decision that was best based on your knowledge, experience, and the information you provide. I have no reason to question your credentials, so I'm for.
I would like to make a motion to approve all 7 with the request that we have you come back for a special meeting with the Rules Committee as well as other council members.
Okay with that.
I don't have a problem with it.
I don't have a problem with it.
Fine with us.
Why could we not have them come and observe? We have open meetings. They'd be welcome to come anytime they wanted to see how we do it.
What was interesting is what else not be a good idea? No. Just to clarify so you guys understand this, we're expecting a percentage, 5% of what we heard last year, this year, because the numbers roll over and people will, may appeal, but I can't imagine we're going to have.
They're expected like 100 cases this year.
So we heard like 3,000 last year. We're going to hear like 100 this year.
So the request would be for you all to return in a special meeting with the Rules Committee and other council members, as well as the state equalization board representative and the assessor's office.
Okay.
That's fine.
Okay.
And may I add too, with some data, how many cases you must you had, and compare approval, denial, those data, result, and as well as how many percentage, as you know, went to state appeal. So any data you could share, and also your training, kind of black point material. So we know you're qualified, no question. But we know as a process, because that's what we are not sure about the process, because it's not on YouTube. So if we could share those process as well as data, that would be great.
Okay.
Do I have a second?
Seconded.
Okay.
Or discuss, I want to make sure there's discussion, but.
Yeah.
So I have one more question, Madam Chair, if that's okay. It's back to Mr. Jameson. So again, if you don't mind, okay, so just walk through the processes. If we deferred tonight on the appointments, what happens? Do they automatically go down and then the vice mayor picks, or?
So I'm hearing April 1 is when the terms expire. So June 1 was the 60th day.
Right.
So that's.
So yes, it would be.
When were they reappointed, though? When were their letters of
I think the
appointment?
60 days requires the mayor's nomination for this committee's approval. But if the charter says if the committee doesn't approve within 60 days, they're deemed approved. So I don't know why this wasn't submitted earlier. I know the last few months have been tumultuous, but.
Can I ask another question? So why are we even doing this? Because I think they're already approved. They've already hit the 60 days.
Why wasn't this on our calendar?
If we do not act, if we still have 60 days. Well, but still we have.
I guess point of clarification here is, so what I'm understanding is they were reappointed on April 1st.
No, I thought their terms.
That's when their terms are. When were they reappointed?
So all I know is the charter says they can keep serving 60 more days.
Okay.
And the mayor has that period of time within which to nominate, and this body has to approve within that 60-day period.
Of their term expiring, of the appointment of these people.
From April 1st, their original term expiration. They can keep serving during that 2 months.
So he could wait till the 60th day and reappoint, and we don't meet, and it's an automatic appointment?
They have to be considered. If they're not considered, you can't,
But if they wait so 60 days, we have no time to consider. Am I the only one seeing this? Am I misunderstanding this?
No. I think you're understanding. But,
I'm just confused. Like, that just seems like we need to look at that. Wow.
So again, Madam Chair, if it's okay. So their term expired on, we think it expired on April the 1st. But I don't know, and so they continue to serve for 60 days.
Right.
Yeah.
We passed that 60 days.
Right.
So what I'm still trying to figure out is, are they off right now because they served their 60 days and they've already passed it?
Approaching.
We only passed it 60 days, 3 days.
When is 60 days?
April 1st, May 1st, June 1st.
3 business days.
I hear you.
Why wasn't this on our agenda before now if they were reappointed on?
Yeah.
I guess that would be up to our clerk, or what would be up to the mayor's office?
Questions later.
Does anybody in the mayor's office want to address when they were appointed and why this wasn't on our agenda before?
Would have been dated the second meeting in May, so we would have sent those to the clerk's office. What was this? May, whatever that.
Councilman Rosenberg, because we're getting short on time.
So, Mike, could a mayor theoretically just never put anybody up for nomination to us and extend their term by 4 years?
No, if they don't, so that within that 60 days, you got to do one of 3 things. The mayor appoints, and we act on it. The mayor doesn't appoint, then it's up to the vice mayor. But here, the mayor appeared to have appointed within the 60 days, but not within a period of time, giving us the chance to confirm within 60 days.
So any mayor could just appoint somebody on the 59th day and not give us time to
That's what I said, yeah.
publicly notice it?
That's what I said. And that's the charter?
Yeah,
Wow. When does charter revision committee meet?
This is fun. Talk to the man over there.
Cool. I think we all need a memo on this.
Oh,
About right. That's what I remember. I mean, if it helps you at all from having sat through this so many times, to be honest, if I recall my very first time here, it was roughly contemporaneous with when we're doing it now. It might have been like the end of May or the beginning of June, but it's always been around this time. So it's interesting. I've never.
You can tell this conversation has to do with you, but it does not have to do with you. I think this is something that we've kind of talked about too, is about when appointments are over on other things. And I think this is a conversation that we need to sit down with the administration and have at another time. Clearly add that to our agenda items.
okay, and after which I'd like to review our motion. Okay, you're recognized.
I was just going to make the point. We got a motion, a second.
Yeah.
It appears that they're, under the terms of the charter, in place anyway. They're all agreeable, and I'm sure Ms. Wilhoit is, in getting us the information, having a
Right.
meeting. So let's just
Okay.
confirm the fact that they're already appointed and get the information we need for constituents and get to the rest of the agenda. That's my
Okay,
request.
there's been a motion and seconded.
One quick comment.
Okay.
Just in case there's a question on the floor, is it proper to probably ask Mr. I don't know. If we're going to do this, I'm fine with going ahead and voting because really there's not much else we can do.
Right.
These people are already through, but maybe somebody needs to explain that what we did. Okay, in case
That
there's a
didn't have to
question.
do.
Yep.
Okay, and that would
I'm
be,
looking at Mr.
that would be
Jameson.
Mr. Jameson.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm just pulling up this charter section, and it might help to read it, sorry. This is paragraphs. This is section 11-101.1. Any member of an administrative board or commission established under the provisions of the charter or by ordinance of the Metro Council and whose term has expired may remain as a member of said board or commission no longer than 60 days after the expiration of his term. Should the mayor or other appointing authority fail to appoint a successor or reappoint the member within 60 days after expiration of his term, the position shall be deemed vacated and the power and authority to appoint shall be vested in the vice mayor, subject to confirmation by the council in the same manner as prescribed by its charter. Should the mayor or other appointing authority appoint a successor or reappoint the member prior to or within 60 days of the expiration and the Metro Council fails to act on the appointment within 60 days of receipt of the letter, receipt of the letter was, you think, May 15th? So we have until,
So we do have.
So we have
I'm
another.
guessing we have until
Yeah.
June 15th. We have the special adjourned meeting on June 12th. We could ask the Rules Committee and the members to return on the adjourned and then add that to the agenda.
Recess, not adjourned recess.
Sorry, you're right, recess, Steve. But have that on the June 12th agenda, and then you'd be assuming May 15th or June 15th is 60 days from the letter.
The letter was sent in May 15th. You've got it.
Yeah, July.
60 days. That's the day of our training.
Also, maybe an issue
We're not responsible for you talking over.
Got all jokes on.
Call the
Okay, call for the question. All in favor? Aye. All in favor? Any opposers? No?
So I would, well,
Motion is to call the question.
We had a motion and we had a second, and now,
What's the motion?
yeah,
the motion is to vote.
yeah, the motion is to vote. We're voting, and all in favor of the motion?
I vote yes.
You vote yes?
Motion was to approve with all the requested report, correct, to refresh our memory.
Yeah, okay, yeah. The motion is to approve the 7 people with the understanding that they would come back with the proper data and the proper...
Educational session.
Right, and the training and all the necessary things that we asked them to do.
Can I ask just a quick point of order? I know we're supposed to vote, but I just want to clarify. With this new understanding, we don't have to approve tonight. We can actually wait.
If we're certain that the letter was May 15th, then yes, you have until June 15th.
Or July 15th, right? Because the letter was, if it's 60 days, the letter would have been sent on May
July
15th.
15th.
July 15th.
July 15th.
Okay.
So...
Then you won't have your
Is there any issue with the board being seated?
So you're saying they won't have a quorum, they're saying they won't have a quorum now.
He was saying we could defer then if we have to.
What is the purpose? Are you going to plan to remove any of them? That's the question I have. Is that what their intentions are?
The whole process is right.
We voted for previous question, right?
Yes. Yes, so we, okay.
So nothing else is debatable. So the
Right.
motion on the floor is what we should be voting on.
That's the motion on the floor. All in favor of the motion on the floor? Aye. Aye. Any opposers?
I'll vote no.
Okay, we have, well, record that.
Fine, thank you.
Okay, well, the ayes have it. And we will notify you all as to when we expect your return.
You good?
Yeah.
They good? Okay.
Here's y'all's tickets to get out.
Yeah.
My own dates.
Questions that were being asked.
I've got your Kenner.
At this time, we have the fire.
I need to add you to my newsletter list. We're going to redo the traffic over there. I'll catch you out there. If you get a car. Okay. Yeah, I got you in here. I'll add you. Yeah.
I have real estate license.
Well, I'll see you again. Yeah. Hey, make sure everybody's good.
They're out there. You know where they are. You're that time escaping.
Property.
Better be in red.
That's wonderful.
I need a cocktail.
Just a minute. Me too, and I've never had one.
Mixed drink?
Hang in there.
When is our first hearing?
This is Sherry. I have no idea if dinner's coming or not.
June 18th.
June 18th?
June 18th.
June 18th is their meeting that she's inviting us to. At this time, we have the Fire and Building Codes Appeal Board. We have the appointment of Mr. Jonathan Woodside for a term expiring March 1st of 2022. I take that you're Mr. Woodside.
Jonathan Woodside.
Okay, thank you for your patience. Sure. Okay, if you all will close the door. Are you a resident of Davidson County?
Yes, ma'am.
Are you a registered voter in Metro Davidson County?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you serve on any other boards or commissions?
I do not.
Okay, tell us a...
Move to approve.
Second.
If I don't get 45 minutes, I'm going to feel good. I want my time.
Call for the previous question.
Second.
I love it. All in favor?
Aye.
Could you just tell me one thing about yourself?
I'm a mechanical engineer. I've got a 4-month-old and a 2-year-old that's having a birthday today.
Get out of here. Get out of here.
That's where I'm going. Thank you, guys.
Yeah, we should have taken you first.
That's okay. That's all right. Thank y'all.
Is anybody to the party? Okay, all in favor? Okay, thank you. The Historic Zoning Commission, the appointment of Mr. David Price for a term expiring April the 1st of 2023. Pull your chair up and sit it right here for me if you don't mind, young man. You look so cooperative.
Oh, sure.
You look so cooperative.
Okay, are you a Metro Davidson County resident?
Yes, ma'am.
Are you a voter here in Metro Davidson County?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you serve on any other boards or commissions?
No, I do not.
Okay.
Move to approve.
Second.
Okay, tell us just one thing that we would find interesting about you.
I'm a professional historian and architectural historian. I've lived in Lockland Springs Conservation District for 14 years.
Okay. All right. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposers? No. Stand approved.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next, we have the appointment of Katie Barney for a term expiring April 6th of 2025. It's Katie. That's a little girl's name, Katie. A cute name for a cute little girl. That's cute. Girl power. And this is for the Public Advisory Board. Okay, are you a resident of Metro Davidson County?
I am.
And you're a registered voter here?
I am.
Okay, do you serve on any other boards or commissions?
I do not.
Tell us one interesting fact about yourself, other than your name is Katie.
Well, I've had the honor to serve the unexpired term of Margaret Ann Robinson, who was on this board for 40 years.
Yeah.
And I don't know of any other board or any other Nashvilleian who served as long on any board. So I consider that a great honor that I got to serve the last
Fill her
year.
shoes.
Well, I couldn't fill her shoes, but I got to do it. I walked.
All in favor? Aye. No, anybody opposed to?
Well, he backed.
The ayes have it.
No, he walked too. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thanks.
Next and last, but certainly not least, we have the Board of Parks and Recreation, the appointment of Ms. Susanna Scott Barnes for a term expiring April the 30th of 2023. Susanna. Nice name. Are you a resident of Davidson County?
Yes, I am.
Are you a registered voter?
Yes, I am.
So, serve on any other boards or commissions?
I do not.
Okay. And tell us a couple of things about yourself.
Let's see, everybody's talking about their kids. I've got 2 identical twin girls that are 10. A little boy who's
This is twin night.
waiting for me, and I'm in Kathleen's district and excited to serve on the parks.
That's when she told me it's Susanna.
And if I can, her children also have testified at the Planning Commission, and she's extremely dedicated to saving her neighborhood from some construction that was changing the character drastically. We'll just put it that way. She has been a patron saint of her area, so I would appreciate everybody's overwhelming approval.
Move to overwhelmingly approve.
Thank you.
Second. All in favor? Aye. I take that there are no opposers. We thank you and approve. Thank you so much. Wow. At this time, if we have any other discussion?
I think
Oh, I'm so sorry.
I mean, you have a resolution up too.
It was a women's resolution.
Yeah, at this time we have At this time, we have Resolution RS 2018-1244. Schulman requests that Metro General Services Department and all departments of the Metro government that display flags to fly Metro government flags at half-staff for a period of 1 year in honor and memory of students killed as a result of gun violence and as a reminder of the urgency of gun violence solutions. Shulman.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So what this was we seem to be having school shootings almost every week or every other week. And I was driving by and I keep seeing the flags being lowered all the time. And I think this is more of it's a symbolic gesture. It's more of sending a message that this keeps happening. We want it stopped. We all need to figure out, we need to keep reminding ourselves that this is not going to go away until we figure out some solution. And so it was kind of a reminder to everybody, this is a horrible time in this country to see this stuff happening. So let's remind ourselves and let's figure out a solution if we can.
So is it just for school shootings? I mean, kids are being shot and killed every single day, so.
It says gun violence. Yeah.
It's gun violence. The most of it came from the school shootings, but we keep lowering them for school shootings, and we put them back up, and then 2 weeks later, they go back down again.
What are the dates? When to when?
It's for a year, I think.
From when we pass it or whatever?
Yeah.
Okay. Move to approve.
Okay.
So,
I think we could find a better way.
don't know how to phrase this in a way that doesn't suck. Does that not give us the opportunity to recognize particular tragedies that occur over the course of the year because they're already down all the time anyway, and it's just part of the landscape?
So I can answer part of that. So it's only Metro flags. State flags, we don't have control over the state or the American flag. We don't have control over that. We can only control the Metro flag.
Are flagpoles equipped for the American flag to stay at the top and the Metro flag to go halfway down?
So
Where there are more than one flag on one pole, that would be an issue, but a lot of times they're separate poles. in the properties that we manage in general services.
But there are some where they're both on the same.
There are some where there are 2 or 3 flags on the same pole. But
We need to clarify this.
We could clarify it if you want to defer it.
Bring it back.
I think part of it is, it's trying to send a message that we shouldn't forget what's going on and that
We can't forget every week is one, but it seems like that is a bigger issue than, to me, lowering a metro flag. Like, I know every single day that somebody is killed due to gun violence. We had some 12 and 13-year-olds steal a car and go out we've had shootings at the Waffle House, at the church. So I think we're familiar. I don't know. For me, like seeing a flag at half-staff, I think more about military people and things of that nature. I don't necessarily think about, I see something more significant. I wish we could come. I don't know what the answer is to make people remember, so I'm sensitive to that, but I'm not confident if having a metro flag at half-staff. I mean, how many people would see the metro flag at half-staff,
I think the point of the resolution is by doing so, start the conversation and then hopefully start the action. I think that's the message Councilman Schulman want to send.
Yeah, I think the conversation has been started. I mean, it's been started. I guess I'm indifferent because I think the conversation has started. It's on every channel of TV every day and night. We're talking about it at our congregations, our schools. So I don't know. I think we're beyond symbolic gestures. I think we're at a point where we need to take some active steps, and that's what those kids say. It's like we're sick of your thoughts and prayers. We're sick of your flags at half-staff. We're sick of your all these little gestures we're doing. I think I'll be more supportive of doing something substance-wise to send a message more so than just.
So do we want to defer it and come back?
I'll withdraw my motion.
And I'm happy to defer a meeting. I appreciate what you said. I want action too. I don't know what that is.
I don't either.
But I'm not willing to give up. And I know it's a symbolic gesture, but I want people to not forget.
Oh, I don't think they have.
Well, I mean, unfortunately, I think in this, and I know we're almost out of time. I think in this country, sometimes we have a bad habit of forgetting that these things happen.
We have exactly 3 minutes before the regular council meeting. We
Okay.
have 2 more items.
Okay, so defer is fine with me.
Okay.
Second.
Everybody
Second.
in favor of deferral?
Aye.
Okay. No. Okay. Next, we have Resolution 1245, Murphy, Van Reese, and others.
This is the Women's Caucus
Yeah.
monthly
She's
resolution.
going to read the caption.
Okay, thank you. Supports and encourages economic equality for women.
It's the Women's Caucus.
Move to
So
approve.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. And then we have Resolution 1246 as Mina Johnson and Bethany recognizes June 2018 as Immigrant Heritage Month in Nashville and Davidson County.
Move to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any further discussion? No? All's good? Okay, we are dismissed. Thank you. All right. That's dismissed. You're so silly with